Now?
Yeah, now.
Yeah. Okay.
Long time no see.
So on behalf of the Fipresci-India, we are welcoming you all. We have just organized this National Open Seminar. It's a very, very open program, and our president, Mr. V.K. Joseph, will chair this seminar. And we have some 10 to 12 primary speakers. They will speak for 4 or 5 minutes each, and then the floor will be open for the interactive sessions. And then if necessary, there will be some Q&A sessions also. Who are speaking in the first position, they can speak again or answer again.
Ravindra, you finished?
Films Division of India, which was established in 1948. Children's Film Society of India, which was established in 1954. National Film Archive of India, 1964. Directorate of Film Festivals, which was formed in 1973. These are going to be merged with National Film Development Corporation of India Limited. Now it is registered under the Companies Act. And the expert committee on whose recommendation the government is doing this, one of very esteemed member of that expert committee, Mr. Rahul Rawal, is with us today. Welcome, sir. And till now, the government has not yet published the report of the expert committee. So there was an RTI also for the publication of the result of the expert committee. It has not yet been published, but government is implementing it. So there are stakeholders who want to speak on that. We are just recording this entire voice of the civil society, and as a responsible, very impartial and independent organization, the Fipresci-India, which is a part of an international body of the Film Critics Federation, we are just recording it, and the summary will be probably we shall send to the government also for looking after. Now I am asking Mr. Joseph, Mr. V.K. Joseph, to chair the conference.
Okay, dear friends, really we are honored with the rich presence of the eminent personalities as the panelists and participants. Fipresci is an organization that is concerned about the cultural heritage and cultural practices of the country. So we have decided to start a serious dialogue on the merger of the independent film institutions into NFDC. As everyone knows, our country is passing through a very dark political and cultural situations. The purpose of the cultural institutions and universities are diluted and undermined to tune with the interest of the corporate world and the cultural policy of the government. So investment in culture is becoming a luxury now. Hence, the definition of the culture itself is varying. So with the cultural activists, artists, filmmakers, writers, film critics, and film society activists fear that this merger move will be a complete ruination of our cultural policy, which has been practicing since our independence. This is going to be a major shift. So public funded institutions like Film Division, Film Archives, DFF, and Children's Film Society started with a definite conviction to promote a film culture. It was not designed to function with a profit motive criteria. But now we are compelled to ask questions to the government how these institutions can work under NFDC, which is registered under Company Act that has to produce profit. So sources say that there was a committee to make recommendations. So, but the committee under Sri Bimal Julka submitted its report without engaging with the primary stakeholders. The fact that this report has not been made publicly available, despite an RT application, raises further questions about the legitimacy of the whole process. So we are concerned about the inaccessibility of this report, especially in the light of the recent announcement of government of shutting down these institutions as early as January 2020. Anyway, we are lucky that Mr. Rahul Rave, so who was a member of the committee and filmmaker, is present here to explain the whole process. I think he will explain it. As critical stakeholders in the matter, we are concerned about the lack of clarity and transparency in the process of this merger. There is widespread speculation in the media that the entire exercise is a precursor for future privatization of our film archives and government properties. Given the urgency of the matter, we should request the government to clarify doubts, to assuage the suspicions arising at this stage, and take immediate action to safeguard the history of Indian cinema and the future of Indian filmmakers who have been closely associated with these institutions in various capacities. So any rebuild of the public institutions under the MIB must consider the larger ecosystem of public funded film education, film production, both fiction and documentary, distribution, exhibition, and archiving in the country to make it most efficient. Institutions handling all these need to function with enhanced autonomy, social auditing, and with greater state funding. The government must take up responsibility to empower them and actively work towards the preservation, nourishment, and propagation of our cinema heritage and culture, painstakingly built by the previous governments, government employees, filmmakers, archivists, students, and the film enthusiasts of our country. So I know that very learned and experienced speakers in this panel will definitely address the issue from different corners. So we have many panelists here, about 10 to 12 speakers are there. As our Secretary Premendra pointed out, depending on, so considering the time limit, so all speakers can take some 5 to 6 minutes in the first part of dialogue. Then after in the interaction session, again, if it needs, we can take some more time. I think it is better to invite Rahul Rave, so who was the committee member of this committee, to speak about the whole process. Then we will be knowing what is the purpose of how the government and this committee plan to merge the all the institutions. So let me invite Mr. Rahul Rave.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. And hello, everybody. This is Rahul Rave. I am a little confused about what is the basic problem with this merger. I'll tell you how this came about is that the committee was appointed to look into the working of the media units, and there was a large drain, monetary drain onto the government, a very large monetary drain, which was because of various factors. What we did in the committee was we went through everything. We spent over a year on this, and we realized that this was being used as a money machine for a lot of people on these committees, on these media units. Films division has not done a documentary from a long time. They were sitting with so much of money and so much of space. There's been no use to it. A children's film society, which outlay is 10 crores of rupees a year, has a staff of 40 people and sitting on prime estate. And they are making films, rarely any films, hardly any films, And it's shameful that Children's Film Society has made a film which finally got a US certificate from the censors. I mean, this is the state of things. And as far as NFDC goes, the name NFDC is being used because we came to one conclusion that a merger was the best way out. And people who are not performing, a lot of people are not performing, they should actually be shown the door. Not that people will lose their jobs. People who are in the public sector already, they will be assigned to other jobs. The government is not going to throw people out and put people away from jobs. This is not the idea at all. Secondly, Mr. Joseph, you said that there a privatization might come in and finally our heritage will go away. This is an unfounded fear. I don't know how this fear has come out. NFDC is only, the name is being used as the umbrella. Even NFDC has a lot of negativity in it, a lot of people just making money and not doing anything else. So they're all going to be weeded out. The name NFDC will be used since it's a name which exists. A lot of people know about NFDC, but there will be a revamp. And all these other media units will all be different verticals, which will all come under the NFDC. And we've seen one thing, the world knows that merging things, verticals into one parent body has been most successful everywhere. It's not that this is a money-making racket that the government wants to make money out of it, but the government does not want to lose more and more money like they do, which I think is very fair. So I really don't understand what is the whole problem, what is the fear that people have. Children's Film Society, I tell you, we know the corruption. We've been through the whole thing. We know the corruption everywhere. I'm not saying everybody is corrupt. There are some people who are very good, very competent at their job, but they're being pulled down by the other people. And so the best way was to actually reassign the whole thing, revamp the whole thing, have an umbrella, which is what has been created. So there is this fear that the government is going to privatize it and take it away and people are going to lose their jobs is not true. In fact, people who are casual employees there, if they're not performing, and if people are not performing, this is the way the world goes. If you don't perform in your job, you don't you don't deserve to be in that job. You deserve to get somebody else. So you can't expect a job and be there and not perform. You have to perform. Films division has made documentaries by hiring outside directors. Now, why? They have a whole horde of directors on a panel. What is the meaning of a panel if you're going to hire outside directors? Why are the outside directors coming in? So the problem lies either with your selection of the panel was not correct, or you are just getting outside directors. For what reason? I don't know, and I don't even want to talk about it. So
Does this mean that DFF also comes under the purview of NFDC?
Arun?
Does the Directorate of Film Festivals also come under the purview of NFDC?
Yes, I'll tell you what happens now is the Director of Film Festivals will also become one of the verticals.
Sorry, sir?
The NFDC.
Sorry, can I pause for a moment? We can't hear him because can everybody else switch off their mics? There is some distraction and we want to hear the speaker, please. Can everyone switch off their mics, please?
Yeah, please mute all the...
Except the speaker. Yeah, thank you.
Except the speaker. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, the name NFDC, maybe that's disturbing to people because we know NFDC has not been functioning in the right way. They have definitely not been functioning at all. So now I'm just reassuring you all that NFDC is the name of the umbrella body. It will be revamped completely. It has to be revamped. That's the only way this thing will work. As far as DFF is concerned, yes, DFF will also become part of the verticals. It will be a vertical itself, all operating under one parent body. Secondly, there is so much duplication in all the media units. Everybody is producing films. If films are to be made by a films division. NFDC makes their own films. Children's Film Society, which is supposed to make films, doesn't make films, or they make films that end up with A certificates. It's ridiculous. So there's so much of duplication. The idea is to streamline everything, and the government cannot make money out of this. Obviously, the government is going to put in as much money as they can, but the government can't afford to spend more money, and they have to really, somewhere put a stop to their losses. They can't let the losses keep mounting.
Correct, but Rahulji, surely the Directorate of Film Festivals is outside of the ambit of everything that you've said.
No, please, hello. So don't interfere in between. Let me speak.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Rahul, so
Yes.
please, please conclude your talk. Then other people can talk.
Yeah, sure. Sure. And I'd like to hear what people say. Yes, Priya.
Okay.
No, I'm done. So yeah, so I get Mr. Joseph's point.
Okay. Then I will, because while one person speaks, it is better not to interfere from your side. And myself or Premendra will be there. You can send some message to us. We can communicate with them. Okay. I think now we will go to the.
No, Rahul is over. Rahul, want to? You have concluded, Rahul? Rahul ji, आपने conclude किया क्या? Fast.
I think it's time for everybody else to speak. I give you a general idea of what it's about.
I think
Okay.
let's move on.
Time for everybody else to.
Okay.
Also, even I can understand what is the basic problem.
We can come back to Mr.
Okay.
Rahul later.
Okay then. Okay. Thank you, Rahul.
Rahul,
And now I think that we
can
will,
you tell us, please, what are your suggestions, recommendations to the government, whether they are binding upon the government to implement them? What are, in nutshell, what are the recommendations?
See, I cannot talk about the report because the report has been handed over to the government, and it is now for
But
them.
this is whole irony of it. This
Pardon?
is democracy we are living in, and
Yeah, but-
we
yeah,
don't
but-
know the report.
Democracy is right. So you have to approach the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting for the report. I'm not.
People have gone to RTI already.
Yeah, you went to an RTI which has been refused. So that is
But
their
that's-
purview. The
But
purview of
can
the
you tell us in nutshell, what are your recommendations of the committee, whether they are binding upon the government?
I told you, the recommendations have been given to the government, and they are moving according to the recommendations, which is basically to bring everything more streamlined, to make this whole effort more streamlined. Priya asked about the DFF. The DFF will become part of this because DFF will not be just holding the International Film Festival. There will be other festivals. Everything all over the country will all come into one head, under one umbrella.
But that's obvious, Saulji. That was the mandate. We know 4 organizations which are going to be under this NFDC.
Yeah,
I'm also not very clear about the word merger. Merger is misnomer. It's the first merger which happened was 1975 between FFC and Impact. And out of that merger emerged new body called NFDC. Here it's I think restructuring and not actually merger.
It's not a merger. It is a restructuring. You're right.
That's what we should debate about. The merger
Hello.
has a different connotation.
This is a restructuring. It is being restructured where there will be a parent body, like I'm saying. NFDC will also be part of the restructuring. NFDC is not going to be, enjoying the benefits which they have, which they are taking advantage of. Obviously,
And one reason, sorry to
Amar,
interrupt, one
hello,
reason
please.
that you said was the pecuniary, that fiscal money.
Yes.
There are reasons beyond money that I think, Joseph, we can discuss it.
Yeah, Amar, I think that you can, so you can talk whatever points you can, you have in your mind, and you can put it in your speech. And I think that I invite Mr. Amar Gangar to speak on this subject.
Thank you, Joseph. I had something to say about what Rahulji proposed. I wrote an article in Indian Express, which was published, and my views are known. Basically, I think we are striking at the surface, not at the roots. Cinema to me is not neither information nor broadcasting. And that defect happened right from the beginning to put cinema under INB ministry, information broadcasting, which should have been in culture ministry, essentially. Then all this tension, which is unnecessary tensions which has been created out of concentration of power, is centripetal system that we are following. The power is highly concentrated and it's getting more and more concentrated, and therefore it's becoming brittle. This whole system might break, and therefore the people of this country, young filmmakers, they will be deprived of. I am afraid of that. NFDC itself is a sick unit. When you are, again, I'm using the word merging, when you are merging this or connecting with the sick unit, all the other units, you are making other units also sick in the process. There is 4 verticals that we know about, and synergy. One of the arguments that they have is synergy. All these organizations have the synergy to merge, to combine. Now, I have a problem there. The archiving is a different ball game altogether. Archiving is a spatial task, and which has to be prioritized. In fact, we should have only one synergy I find, Rahulji, is archiving. Everybody should have independent archive. FD should have, in fact, FD should have independent archive of its own long back. FD produces hundreds of films, thousands of films. It has no lab of its own. Mind you, it is outsourcing right from the beginning. So this archiving, I find, is very important. FD should have archive of its own. CFSI should have archive of its own. DFF should have archive of its own, and create very efficient, technically perfect systems or setup where everybody is archiving its own film. Because NFAI is overburdened. There's no enough staff. 67 people running the whole archive. It's too short a staff. And most of them are admin side, not technical side. So all this issues should be addressed to properly, rather than feeling that they are the drain on the monetary drain on the government. Government systematic is over bureaucratized. Systematically, if you don't replace the staff, which has retired highly, many senior staff have been retired. Those spaces have not been filled. So you make them weaker and weaker and weaker. You don't provide them enough money. The 10 crore you're talking about, but finally, I don't know how much they get and how much in time they get. All these factors, now we are blaming only these organizations because they are poorly functioning and they don't have the will to work and all that. But we are not examining the other side, the government side, the bureaucracy side, how they function, how they are supporting or empowering these bodies. They have been functioning very well. Take, for example, Mr. Kundu's time, exceptional. And the kind of film, whether you invite other young people from this country who are the citizens of the country, and they have within their mandate, they have the system where in-house and out-house productions are taking place, and which is very much within their mandate or within their validity. So these exceptions. So you have very enlightened bureaucrat, enlightened leadership of these bodies, and empower them, make them stronger, so that they deliver something to the people who are financing them. Finally, it's not government. Whose money is there? It's not government money. It's our own money. We are financing these people. And we, the citizens of India, wish that they survive, they become stronger, and really serve the people of India, which they have been. Films division has been repository of such a great heritage of our country's cinema, for example, and which needs to be prioritized. This needs to be preserved well. This you never talked about. The archiving, NFAI has been weakened after Mr. Nair left. Most of the senior staff has retired, not replaced. Why? And now, thereby, you are making them weaker and weaker, and then blaming them. You are not functioning. We have to really look into all this aspect, which I don't know. Therefore, I asked you, Rahulji, tell me about your recommendations. If recommendations are one-sided, then it's becomes a problem, because we have to really examine the government's role here. What has government done, or the bureaucracy has done? This over-centralization of power, is centripetality of power of the system, which I think is making our own governance very fragile and brittle, which is not good for democracy. It's a federal body, federal state. My recommendation was a Chalachitra Academy at the center, which was basically current committee report suggested. It's only state of Kerala which implemented, and which is doing fine, according to my knowledge. This Chalachitra Academy should be the umbrella body, and not NFDC, which is a sick unit anyway, which is a corporation, unlike other bodies, which are government units, all others. CFSI is a society, like Film Institute. So it has a different governing structure, but these aspects should be kept in mind. And if you tell us whether government is still open to the ideas from other stakeholders, and they can still modify that thinking. If you can tell us, Rahulji, whether they are still open to the ideas, or they are still just shut the door and say, no, we are not going to listen to anything.
Thank you, Ahmed Ganga.
No, Rahulji, can you tell us whether...
Yeah, Ganga sir, firstly, I just like to say one thing is that most of the questions you asked have actually answered a lot of things. See, NFDC is a sick unit. We are not denying it. Okay. So NFDC will also be revamped first. NFDC will come out of being a sick unit and be revamped first to become the parent body. It's not that NFDC is sick, and the idea is not that a sick body will become a parent body. I mean, that's a very a strange kind of thinking.
I think let us Joseph, please ask other people to talk.
No, I think that we can have a discussion later after finishing all these speakers.
All right.
So now I invite Dr. C.S. Venkateswaran to talk.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Fipresci, for organizing this, and also thanks to Pramendra and Joseph. Amrit, and talking about this monetary drain of culture on a society is a very sad thing to hear, actually. So culture is expenditure. Culture is an expenditure sort of thing. So 3 or 4 points, which I think to add to what Amrit was saying. Like one thing is like all these talk about these verticals of production, festival, heritage, and knowledge. Around which we are proposing a new organization or whatever, revamp NFDC or whatever. Like the question is whether, whether we should actually look at these, because all these organizations which we are trying to merge or, bring under an umbrella have a long history, and also they have, their own operational modes, they have their own, expertise that they have actually garnered through the years. And their task, their mode of functioning, their institutional dynamics, their mandate, everything is different. And they also have been functioning for the last so many decades and have gathered a lot of experience. And any kind of merger or kind of bringing it, centralizing it, is going to actually damage. Synergy is not merger. Synergy is keep being separate and working together. To actually, maybe there are duplications, but let us not worry about that. The thing is, what is the mandate of these institutions? If these institutions have not, functioned, fulfilled their mandate, let us, audit them and bring them to books. Audit them, bring them to books, ask them to stick out to their mandate. As Amrit said, we have always seen the institutions functioning brilliantly, like very exceptionally well under good leadership, whether it be PK Nair or Kundu or whoever. So nothing is wrong with institutions. It is about accountability, bringing accountability and making them work through proper leadership, and also giving the autonomy and enough funds, and also giving them the opportunity to modernize themselves, keeping their technologies and knowledge systems at pace with what is happening everywhere else. So have we done that to the archives, to our film festival, DFF, to Children's Film Society? Have we done that? So that is one thing. So one thing is about the diversity of institutions, their strengths, their history, and the kind of centralization that this merger will bring about. And we know from experience, during the last 30 years of Indian history, we know this talk about monetary drain, centralization, verticals, what it has done to our public sector institutions. This is open book, the history, and we also know what has happened to the employees. So let us not, be blind about it. So it has been a very, very, kind of thing where people have lost jobs, a lot of things have been closed down, and new structures have come up which are neither accountable nor transparent. Not even the report is made public. So let us not talk about the transparency of the future institutions. Let us talk about now. What happened to this report? Why is it not made public? Why can't people talk about it? Why can't do brainstorm on those issues? One more thing which I would like to flag is this whole question of monetization. What does actually monetization mean? Is centralization going to help monetization? And what is this whole idea of monetizing film heritage? This primary mandate of these public institutions has been the preserve Indian film heritage, which actually involves a lot of non-monetary, long-term expenditure, investment in research, development, travel, procurement, all kinds of things, which are non-monetary, which are going to have their benefits in the long run. And the moment you monetize it, which is again, as everybody knows, is the first step towards privatization. And as of now, most of these institutions, there are no personnel, there is no technological upgradation, there's a lot of outsourcing, and the natural outcome is gradual privatization of the task, which again will shift the whole priorities from film heritage and open, acquisition and preservation and restoration of all materials to certain segments of sellable, viable propositions, of selecting our heritage, which should be preserved, which is viable, which is sellable, is going to be a very dangerous proposition also. I think lastly, what I think is, as Amrit was saying, what we need is not centralization, but much more of decentralization. And we need to put more money into creating local archives, regional archives, languages archives, and also supporting archival efforts of all these institutions which form part of our film heritage. Not to, it's not about, validating or, just saying that everything is right with these institutions. No, we have to critique them, we have to make them accountable, we have to, remind them about their mandate, and also the danger of this kind of centralization hanging over their head, and make them workable, accountable. That is one thing. It is another thing to, streamline merger, centralization, which again is what happened to, there's an indicator in what happened to the film appellate tribunal, where you denied all the local documentary independent filmmakers from a forum to address a real issue. So this whole idea of centralization is actually a very dangerous idea. And, I think that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sri Venkateswaran. I would like to invite Sri Anil Shankar, a film scholar and educator, and I think he can have a very different view on this issue. Please.
Yes, good evening to everyone. Thanks for having me there. I'll be very brief. I've been listening to the topics. First of all, I want to contest the point that these institutions have not succeeded. We often criticize them. They have not succeeded to the extent that they should have. We all know that. There is no even an argument on that. Yet, what have they created? This has been one decision which is going forward going to be a very crucial. I hope not negatively, but to me, at the moment, from lack of information, it looks like that. The reason I'm telling you that the INB has taken several important decisions in its life, right from 47 or 50, whenever it was formed. The most important decisions have been setting up these institutions, we should never underplay or overlook this fact. I know for about 2 organizations that I worked about, and I contest the views that they've been non-functional. One is FD. Point has been made that outsiders have been making films. Yes, from Satyajit Rai to Girish Kasarwali to so many other people have made films. Filmmakers, lesser filmmakers like me have also made films. When Mr. Kundu was there, Amit Ganga referred to it. It was an extremely professional system in which, at the same time, I know that a lot of people in films division, the staff, entire staff was making films, because Mr. Kundu said that all of you must sit and make films, and I've seen that happen. I've also conducted a workshop with the Film Institute, with the Films Division at that point, 3-day workshop from morning to evening, and there were several other people also who contributed during Mr. This time. This ideas and this vision, I think, is very important in the life of the Institute. I don't know whether the committee has been informed of that. When people say people should not so easily dismiss these kind of institutions. Secondly, my own experience of making a film with this thing was extremely good. It was extremely clean. First of all, we were all supposed to submit proposals anonymously. And then we got the calls when they were finally selected. And then there was a rigorous scrutiny when you're supposed given 10 minutes, 15 minutes, things like that. So that way, I know that I've heard other things in the earlier times, but in the last few years at least, then I was also on the jury of Mami last time, the last festival that it had. The kind of organization and the kind of things that
MIF, Anil, not Mami, MIF.
MIF, sorry, extremely sorry. Thanks. So it's MIF, the way it has been there. Now about coming to National Film Archives, which I'm far more intimately connected with from the times of Mr. Nair. Earlier, it began as a National Film Library under the director of FTI, Mr. Jagat Murari, principal of FTI at that time, FII, Film Institute of India, Mr. Jagat Murari. Soon, very soon, it was realized by somebody very wisely that it needs to move out independently. And Mr. Nair became the first curator, and later on it was upgraded to director. Today, over the years, it's been one of the finest archives in the world. I would say that. Despite a lot of things need to improve, we know that there's room for improvement. There's a lot of things to be done, like in organizations. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, is what I want to say about this. The question is that we talk about synergy. What upsets me is particularly that the corporate model which is being followed in the field of culture. For instance, I've seen wonderful synergy even when the word was not born, and this post-90, this corporate language was not going to dominate every sphere of life, between institute and archives. You ask any alumnus of institute, known or unknown, and he will say that archives is as important to me as the Film Institute, the parent organization, which I learned. And these have been, mind you, independent organizations. And that is how it has been realized. Now, the question is, if there are problems, I said they're independent, but then not maybe autonomous. So the point is to strengthen their independence and find out the things and treat them points differently. This is what is common, say, for instance, Films Division is a filmmaking body, and which has produced a lot of films. And this is like a huge, it has its own huge archive. I mean, today, if you want some footage for newsreel and other thing, till a certain point, till Doordarshan and others thing came up, Doordarshan, Films Division was the only repository. Still, it is the only repository of newsreel and several things which are documentaries which were made at that particular point, up to a certain age. And that, I think, is important. Archiving with the research section and other thing, you need to strengthen it, take it forward, and not merge it. The problem is that when you merge the mergers and acquisitions things, I don't like that, because then the organization loses its own identity. The archive is an archive, period. A national film, okay, even if it's an umbrella, a film development corporation I mean, who is going to, what is not really spelled out is that who is going to, see, the worst thing that has happened is that I don't want to talk more about what forms are there because it's speculation. I don't want to indulge in speculation. And with due respect, Mr. Rahul Ravel's point, is that your motives I do not question, sir. You have given, I understand how the committees function. You have been given a framework, and within that, you people are working. And I hope that you've done your job to the best of your honesty and conscience. I have no problems with that. But I have problems with the fact that your question becomes rhetorical. It's not your decision again, it's the government's decision. You have certain views which you stated up to the point that you could share with us. I understand that. I don't expect you more because it's up to the government. The ball is in government's court. So they have to. Now that exactly is what is creating a problem. These are not matters of national security or any such thing. So why is the report not being discussed? Why is it not in public domain? Every single decision, if you go down the history of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, has been in public domain. There have been committees appointed. There have been views in which has been invited. Potential stakeholders have been allowed, whether it is setting up of FTII, whether it is setting up of archives, whether it is setting up of any government body that you see, there's been a process which has been followed and it has been in public domain. So why is it not in public domain? And that is what is creating these various anxieties. Because if you say that you know the report, so apparently, there's not anything to cause serious concern. That is your view because you are in the know of it. But I do not know the shape of things. And even if I completely grant you that you're honest in believing what you're saying. But even then, I could have, or others could have, a difference of opinion with the recommendations of the committee. And the question that actually, it all returns to the question again and again is that why is this not being made public and why there is no discussion? Because if you're saying as it is clear and it is there, it will dispel all doubts for once and all. So these are some briefly my points actually in looking at these things, because we do not know the shape of things to kind of come. And secondly, for instance, in the age of studios, in the studio eras, you can talk about various, verticals, production, distribution, and exhibition, and they could be integrated very easily. But these are verticals which need to grow on their own, I think. How can you combine, say, CBFC, what CBFC is doing, what DFF is doing, and what archives is doing? They're completely different functions. And let them be different functions. I cannot possibly see a way of combining these two. Lastly, about the monetization. This has been coming more and more. I know, FTI is outside the frame here, but there was this famous Geeta Krishnan committee's report, and they asked about, okay, your government spends so much, and then the monetization, and then the results, this is a very old refrain. And they said that we take more students and you should be self-supportive. It's not that at all. How do you monetize an academic and a cultural archive? Is the cultural institution. It's not supposed to make money. Is National Museum supposed to make money? Is National Library supposed to make money? I want to quote one of our earlier INB minister, late Mrs. Sushma Swaraj. Sushma ji once asked about archives. She said, "Ye to hamara dharohar hai." So we have to protect and do that. Recently, a lot of money has been sunk into archives. They have 600 crores, for its ascent and other things. And one was kind of hopeful of that. Now comes this particular decision. This is one very major decision of 600 crores, which will be given to archives over a period of time. And halfway through, the scheme is not even complete. We haven't even followed the process to its conclusion. And comes this decision and says that archives becomes as, part of the umbrella and within that. So what is one to know about it? I do not know. And I do not want to speculate. So this is the lack of information and lack of debate is the cause of a lot of apprehension and a lot of fear, which is being caused. And I think that is justified.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Now I invite Usha Deshpande, so documentary filmmaker and the office bearer of the Indian Documentary Filmmakers Association. I think Usha Deshpande. I think we should stick on the time frame, I think, because the time is very limited. So 5 to 6 minutes. Then if we get more time, we can, again, we can talk. Hello? Usha Deshpande is not there? Okay, then Pramendra, then I will invite Priya Krishnasamy to speak because she's an editor and filmmaker and FTI alumni. Priya.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. So I think everybody has already articulated mostly where the concerns are. My feeling is the same, that these are very, very different bodies and they have very, very different responsibilities to carry out. And I know personally that NFDC has, I don't even know, the problem is that we don't know, this is what Anil said, we don't know what is in the framework. We don't know what has been posited and what has been approved. So we are really like kind of, headless chickens kind of flailing around. I think Rahul said at some point that monetizing it wasn't the idea. So, and that was one of the things that I thought was actually on the board, was how do you monetize all of these different bodies, and it can't be done. Films division, for instance, we've been talking about this, Rahul, for 20 years. I've been making films for them, and we said, you have the greatest archive. Why don't you guys put out, an online YouTube channel? In those days, it was just YouTube. And they said, yeah, we've been talking about this for years and years, and it's just around the corner, and it never ever happened. So I don't, and I really, really don't think that it's a good idea to kind of subsume all of these. Definitely not the DFF. The DFF, for God's sake, it's an autonomous thing. It has nothing to do with film production. That's what I'm saying. All of these are very, very different bodies, and they're dealing with, if we're talking about privatizing, they were talking about privatizing FTI when I was there in '84. It's not this, these are not new things that are coming out, it's just, and I totally get this. I totally get that these are moribund institutions. I get that. I know that they need to be revamped. In the interest of the filmmaker, they need to be revamped. NFDC definitely needs to be revamped. CFSI, unfortunately, hasn't made films for a long time. So I understand that. I understand where the concern is coming from. I'm not sure that this is the way to do it. So this is, and I mean, India was, when I was a student at FTI, it was, NFDC was on par with the National Film Board of Canada. It was doing that kind of stellar work, and everybody knows that you've got to invest. And 10 crore for an organization is nothing. Per year, it's nothing. People spend that in 2 days. So I'm not sure what I just know that, that Indian cinema desperately needs for new inventive films to be made. And that's that support is going to come from the government. There's no other, and that work is what the commercial mainstream watches. They watch the indie films. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the kind of Ayushmann Khurrana films that are coming out now, for instance. They all came out of, the latter stuff came out of Film Bazaar, NFDC's Film Bazaar. So I think that what is needed, I think clearly is, this is what Amrit said. What are the recommendations? How far has it gone? And are we allowed to say anything about it? Until we have that information, I think we're just shooting blind. But definitely we need the investment. We need to preserve our film culture going forward, not just looking back. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Priya Krishnasamy. Now I would like to invite Sri Sunny Joseph, the senior cinematographer and the Dean of our K.R. Narayanan Film Institute. Sunny.
Good evening, everybody. I've been listening to all the eminent panelists, and there are other eminent participants. And I have been, when Rahulji was giving his views, it was quite troubling to listen to him repeatedly saying prime property, making laws, all these kind of things repeatedly. It gives a certain other kind of ideas. like everybody else said, these are not, except for NFDC, we could say that these are not supposed to be profit-making organizations, and culture itself is never be a profit-making endeavor. In the sense, the approach to the, I agree with Rahul ji that these organizations today are not functioning properly, but this is not the way to make it right. There is a saying in Malayalam, "Eliye pedikan illan chuduga." You find a rat inside the house and you can't catch it; it is running around, so you decide to burn the house. So this is the approach, I am afraid. And like the archive, even the NFDC, which is not so functional in its good days, it made so many good films which made India proud in the international scene. Why are we not valuing that? We have to put some millions of dollars value to those achievements. You cannot put a calculator and say that this is the way. It is not showing any profit. That profit is India's good name. We are all talking about nationalism. Where is the nationalism? And to come back to our discussion, again, in the same realm, I would like to say one of my dear friend, filmmaker Rajiv Vijayaraghvan. He lives in Netherlands, and he once said some very good, interesting debate in Dutch Parliament. There were few MPs who were very worried about a government spending so much money on art education. So they were all quite worried, and then they asked the Minister for Culture, shouting at him, saying that, why are you spending so much money for art education? After Rembrandt, nobody has been there with such kind of thing. So he smiled and said, dear friends, we are spending this money with the hope that in 500 years, another Rembrandt might be born. So that is the hope. And the hope is being killed by this kind of stupid, decisions by the government. And there are nobody to tell. And, I am very surprised that, the committees and all, with all the right mind people, why they are afraid to tell the government that these are not workable. And only that much, and other kind of ideas, all the others said, I agree to that. Thank you all.
So thank you, Sunny. Now I would like to invite Professor Manu Chakravarti, who is a film critic and Fipresci and educationalist and scholar.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, friends. I'll make just a couple of remarks. I think it's ridiculous to shut down institutions because institutions don't work and the employees don't work. Now, that's a bureaucratic failure. What are civil service rules for? You can terminate employees, you can suspend employees. So to say that we are going to merge institutions, I think is a very undemocratic, fascist attitude. Make employees work. Second, this notion of the vertical, I think itself is very problematic. We should be more interested in horizontal structures because horizontal structures mean autonomy. We need local self-governance. We need local bodies, and we need not this culture, which we generally regard as monoculture. We need to be multicultural and have more and more institutions. Coming from the academia, having spent nearly 40 years in the academia, I can talk of the ills, the diseases, the multiple diseases that plague our universities dealing with higher education. Do you shut them down or do you make them work? So I think it's very ridiculous. My whole point is, I will give you a concrete example, that this is an attempt to build a vertical structure where one language, one power, one corporate structure plays its role. In fact, in Karnataka, I don't know how it's elsewhere, the radio stations And one of the programs was the very famous program under the name Amrita Varshini. This Amrita Varshini encouraged local talent, diverse talents, all kinds of classical musicians, B grade, C grade to A top. All of a sudden, the policy was made, and without consulting musicians, without consulting the collaborators, the participants, those who have spent 20 to 30 years singing, learning, teaching, and to merge it with some institution based at Delhi. Now, this is the kind of centralization, verticality that I think is a threat to cultural democracy. This is a kind of, I think, a bureaucratic, a cultural nationalism, which might also make one language far more powerful. And personally, I know that the films division, several people, and one of them being my close friend, they have been doing wonderful work producing films. So I think there is something very absurd, preposterous in saying institutions have to be shut down or merged because they are not functioning. Whose lapse is it? It's a bureaucratic lapse. I think the greatest threat is in believing in verticalities, because verticalities only mean power structures, structures of hierarchy and authority. We should be interested more in autonomies, several kinds of autonomies, and believe in fostering, nurturing, encouraging diverse local cultures. Now, this is where I stop as an opening statement.
Okay, thank you, Manu Chakravarti. I would like to invite somebody, Meenakshi Shedde. She's a film critic and the curator for the film festivals.
Thank you so much, VK Joseph. Thank you to all of you for giving me this platform. I echo the sentiments of my learned colleagues who've spoken earlier. I just wanted to say that one of the things that's troubling me, not that it needs done, not that rethinking of the whole process needs to be done. Yes, that's absolutely overdue. But the way in which it has been proceeding without transparency or lack of consultation, and that nothing that the government has done inspires the confidence that that is not true. For example, the one, first of all, the Bimal Julka report has not been made public in 2 years. It was recommendations were made in 2019. It is now 2022. Until now, there is no transparency despite the RTI. Secondly, the films division is one of the largest of these film institutions we're talking about, of these 5, with some 400 employees. And when these FD employees they filed a petition in the Delhi High Court against the merger, challenging the merger. The petition was dismissed as premature. And what happened right after this petition was dismissed? First of all, the censor board chief, Ravinder Bhakar, has already taken over as the chief of the NFDC and CFSI and films division. So as a concept, of being premature, this is what happened. And the National Museum of Indian Cinema, NMIC, has already been transferred on 24th of December, 2021. This NMIC was already transferred summarily under the NFDC. So, it only confirms our suspicions and fears that, this lack of transparency has, that there are some kind of vested interests in, kind of road rollering, something without a clear roadmap. There is no clarity on what happens to all, exactly what my colleague said. If somebody is specializing in archives, has taken decades to specialize in the chemicals or the humidity control or whatever, what is he going to do on the DFF, which is about promoting Indian films at festivals worldwide? If somebody is in the DFF, what is he going to do with how to make a great documentary? If you're going to sell documentaries, if you're going to monetize, like to who is dying to buy the documentaries, at what price? I mean, has there any thought been given into making, maybe you should monetize them. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, has there any thought been given? What is the price you're going to quote? Is there any good archive of the films division's own documentaries? Who are you going to sell it to? What is, and if there are outside filmmakers, what are they going to get? It's just kind of road rollering, and there's no clarity. What happens to those, the employees of all of these people? Ravelji said just now, no, nobody's going to be laid off. But this is what they said. No, nothing will happen. And right immediately after, it's already summarily dismissed. So we're already seeing that the verbal things or the promises don't actually translate at all. So I mean, we're, really have even more reason to have suspicions. So I really think that you're absolutely right. Accountability needs to be done. Nobody's saying they're in great shape or anything. But as Amritji pointed out earlier, if you're saying they're in shabby shape, haven't made great films, haven't made anything, it's absolutely important to find out why that didn't happen. It is very possible that the government was one of the key reasons. There is incredible amount of censorship. There's some shabby documentaries that come out. Why? If you can't say what you want to say, of course, it's going to be shabby. It's going to end up looking like a PR docu for the government, right? So I think when we accuse organizations of bad record, which is absolutely true, it's also worthwhile listening to those organizations, people, their employees, why they're in shabby condition. And absolutely, yes, we have to demand accountability. We have to, I think the crucial thing is that in the end, the funding should continue because it's public funds. It's not government money coming out of the government's pocket. These are public funded institutions. And the mandate has to continue. The commitment to the mandate that the institutions were set up for has to continue. And above all, they have to have autonomy. Otherwise, they're going to end up being government lapdogs, which then, one might as well have not bothered with this entire exercise in the first place, because you're really erasing huge decades, more than half a century of very, very rich audiovisual history. And in countries worldwide, I'm nobody to really comment, but just observing what's going on. When people ignore their own history, there's a very high price to be paid, and that's not always in the favor of the government. So I'm really concerned for both sides, for the government as well as for us. But I just wanted to lay that on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to invite Sri Sabel Mitra, the filmmaker. Hello, Sabel ji.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible. Please.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and listen to you all. I have a very brief thing, small thing to say that I can understand, as being a filmmaker, my relation or collaboration was only with, say, Films Division or NFDC, DFF. But since this, the corporate funding came into Indian cinema, we witnessed a change in the way we used to get funds. I mean, the approach towards investment in cinema, or the cinema that we used to make, we used to see, we used to get inspired by watching those movies. Now, today, what is happening? I mean, this new proposal, I am not very hopeful of being able to stop this proposal or to force the government not to do it. I mean, to allow each individual institute to function properly and to help them so that they can function properly. Because it is true that they did some remarkable jobs. I mean, an institute like Film Finance Corporation helped Indian new wave to rise. I mean, to begin with Bhuvan Shom kind of a movie. But also, I have a fear that this merger concept is almost like bank merging. I mean, maybe those days are not very far when we will be given funds from NFDC, from Films Division, from Children Film Society, but only to make movies or propagate an ideas of their choice. I mean, the choice of this government. They are into it. They are there to change our country, our culture, everything. So I only keep my finger crossed, and I only hope that the better sense will prevail, and they will understand that if the name of this country is India, where so many cultures, so many languages are there. So please, I'm very sure that this is going to come. I mean, NFDC will give us fund, but with a that my subject of my movie will be monitored, whether it's fiction or documentary or children's film, whatever it is. So that's a very bad days ahead of us. That's what I want to say only. Thank you. I mean, it's a kind of conspiracy to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Sabel Mitra. Pramendra, is there Usha Deshpande is there?
Usha has joined us.
Huh?
Usha joined us, I think.
Yeah, but I invited her, but there was no reply.
Okay. Then I think.
Okay, then I will. Okay, then we will we'll go for Mr. Pradeep Bhatt and Shilpi Gulati.
Yeah, Pratik Bhatt is there, and I think Shilpi Gulati is also there.
Yeah.
Basically,
I will invite them. Pradeep Bhatt and
Mr.
Shilpi
Joseph,
Gulati.
Mr. Joseph, I'm sorry.
One more.
I'm sorry. I just need to add something. At the moment, I am suffering from COVID. All right, and I'm getting a little tired now because of this horrendous thing which I have. I just like to add 2 or 3 things before I'm being forced to sign off. I wish I was here longer. A is that what Amit said is that this is people's money and not the government's money. I agree with him. It's your money. But here, the idea is that your money is being spent in the wrong direction. So shouldn't you be responsible enough to see that the money is spent in the right direction? You should be. Priya, as far as you spoke about DFF coming under the same umbrella, I think will go a long way if you really get into what has been recommended. I'm sorry, I'm not entitled to talk about the report. The government has to talk about the report. I can only assure everyone thing that the entire effort what the government is making is based completely on the report. It is not away from the report, a report which has taken us 2 years to formulate. Now, whether it is going to be brought in the public domain or not is for the government to decide. I personally feel that most people here, I'm sorry to say this, my feeling is that there is a thing to say whatever the government does is wrong. And the government is not making money. They will not make money out of this. They're not selling the culture. They will never make money out of the archives or anything. It's just streamlining it. They have to fund it. They'll be funding everything even further. So you can't just say that, you say your fear is this will happen. How can we have a fear that this will happen when it's not going to happen? It hasn't happened. What is the fear based on? I think most people here, barring a few, are only saying this will happen. It's a fear we have. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to talk about.
The fear is based on the fact that all the premises seem to be wrong.
The premises are right or wrong. I think
even your one premise I'll take, that it's our money, as you agree.
Yes.
We don't want our money to make more money.
We're not making money.
To make better films.
I'm sorry, sir.
Create a better infrastructure.
I'm sorry, sir. This is not going to make more money. The government is not going to make money out of this. For culture, they're not going to sell their culture for money.
And why this unholy rush?
Why not?
One edifice is gone.
I'm sorry, when we talk about films division and these things, and we talk about the glory, I know there have been glorious days, but what's happened to the glory?
So
over the years gone down the drain.
We are all for fixing that.
And I'm sorry, there are people over here who are filmmakers who have dealt with NFDC and seen the kind of corruption. This is NFDC. Are you happy with?
That's the organization you're going to.
Are you happy? Are you happy with the Children's Film Society?
I think you should fix NFDC first. Take 3 years.
It will be fixed. Everything will be fixed. Why are you saying it will not be fixed?
I think the whole NFDC.
I mean, I find this really. I'm sorry. My COVID is getting to me, and I have to sign off from here. But I'd be happy to join again at any time.
Yeah, let's keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm signing off. But
thank you.
But
Thank you, Rahul. Okay.
I
Goodbye.
just I had to say this. I feel
I think
Everyone
get some
said
rest,
something.
and we
And
wish
then
you all
come-
strength. We wish you all
Take
strength.
care. Take care, Rahulji.
Hello, I will come.
Okay,
Take
Manu.
care. Take care.
Do a good
Take care.
recovery.
Hello.
All the best.
Hello.
All the best.
Hello,
Thank you.
I will come to you.
Rahul,
Thank you,
take care.
Rahulji. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rahulji, for coming.
Thank you.
Please take
Hello,
care. We shall
hello.
keep
Thank
you.
you.
Hello. I will tell and I will invite the people. Now, this Mr. Pradeep Bhatt and Shilpi Gulati, who jointly drafted the letter to the government, signed by more than 1,500 stakeholders. I think they will speak on the issue. Pradeep,
Shilpi can speak first and Pratik can join later.
Shilpi or Pradeep?
Okay, I'll go first. Many of the things that we have said in the letter have actually been covered by many of the speakers before me, so I won't repeat that. I just wanted to draw attention to two things. One is that in the last 1 year, we have to look at what the MIB is doing with regard to the film fraternity of India. In the last 1 year, we have seen the FCAT has been dissolved without any consultation. We have seen the controversy that happened after, the web series Tandav, and how the government came under a lot of, brought filmmakers, almost like arm twisting filmmakers, into catering to certain kind of mob censorship that is rising in our country from the late 1990s. And then we know that there was a cinematograph amendment bill that was proposed in August. So look at how it's going in the year. We are starting off with OTT platforms. FCAT gets dissolved in April 2021. In August, we see that the cinematograph amendment bill is being brought. What was the most controversial about that bill? And at that time, we got more than 10,000 people sign in and send that letter to the ministry and many others. So that time also the same thing, if we are not being consulted, and at the center of that bill, the government is saying, or the MIB is proposing that the central government would have sovereignty over or a final word on films and be able to recall films that have been already approved by the censor board. Saying that the union government can recall a film which has already been approved challenges the autonomy of an institution like the CBFC, And we are saying that we have to do less censorship, but the government is coming closer actually and catching us by the neck actually in that sense. And then in December, we hear this and we see that, oh, there's a merger going to happen, closure is going to happen. And in all of these changes that are happening, one thing we are saying repeatedly is that the film fraternity has not been consulted, in any of these steps. And especially with this one, this report, we've talked about it enough. We don't have access to the report, but the point is that why can't a certain large scale consultation with filmmakers actually take place? And maybe, this is too late or it has just suddenly been sprung on us. But the point is, where do we go from here? Do we push for a consultation? Should we push for an academy? Should we go to court? These are questions that actually as a young filmmaker, I have, Pratik, I'm sure, and all the other people we've been talking to, we actually don't know where to go from here. It is almost like we are craving for a certain kind of guidance, a certain kind of mentorship. And I wanted to sort of also use this opportunity to ask people, what can concretely be done, because these institutions are going to go and our archives are going to go and all of the other things that we've talked about. So that's all I wanted to say, that just to look at the year, look at what the MIB is doing repeatedly. And what is interesting is this, right? On one hand, you're tightening control over public exhibition in the country, tightening control over what goes out, what kind of censorship is becoming, censorship laws are being changed. OTT platforms are coming under this kind of gaze. And on the other hand, you're letting go of your responsibility as a welfare socialist state to actually take care of your archives and fund films like documentaries, experimental films, and fiction films, and all kinds of films that push the conventions of form and aesthetics and politics of filmmaking. So that kind of welfare role it's withdrawing from, and at the same time, it's tightening control over exhibition. And I think that's very worrying. So how does one go ahead from here is actually a question that I don't have an answer to. And that's what I wanted to share on this platform today. Thank you for asking me to talk.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
Ramendra.
Pratik can. Pratik,
now what to do?
No, Pratik will speak. Pratik.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, very much. Please carry on.
There's some disturbance coming from somewhere. Yeah. So again, without repeating things what Mr. Gangar and Mr. Zankar and so many of us have spoken, Mr. Sunny Joseph spoke and all. My concern, see, nobody, two things always happen. Whenever you want to question something, it's put as if we are anti-change, as if we want to hold on to something and fix it and all that. I think that is never true. I think nobody understands the problems of these institutions more than the filmmakers who worked with them. And I, for one, have made a documentary with Films Division, which was completed in 2017. So we've worked with these institutions closely. I've studied at the FTI. I've worked with, almost on a daily basis with the National Film Archives and things like that. So we know the problems. So we want change. In fact, we are the ones who've been vigorously asking since many years. And when I say we, I mean a collective generation of filmmakers for the past 20, 30 years. So that has to, first of all, go out the thing that filmmakers don't want change. We want change. Secondly, this whole idea, whenever you oppose something, it is framed as you are anti-government. That is why you are opposed to this. That is not the debate here. Debate is, my concern is one simple thing which Shilpi has raised, that as filmmakers, why haven't we been given this space to put our concerns through? And why are we still being denied that? And as defenders of public institutions, as people who depend on these institutions for research, for just Shilpi is doing PhD right now, she's referring to so many things. When I was making my film, I was referring to the archives so much. So we are concerned about these spaces, and we are not being given a space. And it is high time we have to reclaim the space. Government will not give it to us. And that is for us to decide now, how do we reclaim this space? There can be 2-3 things, and 40 people will have 40 different things. But one is, what is the process which is going on? Why is it so opaque? What is so national security threat which this report poses that it is not being given to us? First of all. Second of all, what is the nature of this new NFDC, which Mr. Ravel said is a revamp? But my questions are something fundamental. Is it still a corporation? Because other things are media units. He skirted the issue of FTI and SRFTI. They are also technically media units. So are they also coming under this larger umbrella? What is the constitution of this larger umbrella? What is the mandate of this larger umbrella in terms of production of fiction films, documentary films, children's films exhibitions through DFF or something like that, or archiving? We do not know anything, and this is a very worrying fact, and we cannot let this pass. We cannot be relying on people getting tidbits of information through a notice or through some friendly contact in these institutions. It is high time as a body of filmmakers, as concerned people, and not just filmmakers, as concerned people, that some collective action is done. One letter is fine, you have endorsements and all, but from institutions like Fipresci and things like that, if official representations keep going to the government saying we want to get involved, how can you keep us out? I mean, it's never heard of that educationists are being kept out. Who are these people who sat in these meetings? I want to know. When they say these institutions are sick units, first of all, I think it's a flawed premise completely. FDA, PSBT, these are still the institutions which make the highest number of documentary films in the country. So I do not feel it is a sick institution. It may have problems. Prasar Bharati is sick, so should we shut it down? UPSC might not be functioning at its optimum. Should we shut it down? So these kind of questions, these are public policy discussions. They cannot go on like that. It's when these filmmakers and our trade bodies and everybody got together, that is when the Cinematograph Amendment Bill was stalled. It wasn't passed in the parliament because some 8,000 people signed on that letter. Industry bodies wrote to the government saying this cannot be done. And I think right now, what is stopping us from doing that or taking that kind of proactive measures? And model can be a Chalchitra model, something. There can be 30,000 things which can be discussed, but for that we need to know what is happening, and that is the basis of a transparent democracy, right? My concern is also like we're talking about hundreds of crores, if not thousands of crores of assets, of physical tangible assets of these places, which are being realigned in some way or manner which is not transparent at all. So these are concerns about financial corruption are there, concerns about larger public film policy of the countries there, which is going to be there for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And tomorrow, if this new organization doesn't function properly, then what happens? Because since Mr. Kundu was removed from FD, I do not think Films Division has had a full-time director general. It's always been additional charges, and things like that. So first of all, you create conditions where institutions don't function. Then you come on say they are not functioning, so we will sell them. If the accountability lies of non-functioning, it lies with the government. They are the ones who should answer. Joint Secretary Films of last 5 years should be brought on board and said, what were you doing? Why were these institutions failing if they are? So my concern is just how do we organize? See, rhetoric is one thing. We can keep talking and talking and talking. But I think just if some seniors can just talk about what can be done. Things are moving very, very fast. By the end of the month, some more branches would have been shut down. Some more people would have been offered the golden handshake. Mr. Ravel said there'll be no impact on employment. It's a stupid thing to say, because permanent employees in these institutions enjoy benefits like pension. Corporations do not offer that. So there's something, you cannot put people from one department into another and they say nothing changes. So it is when they say the concerns about privatization are unfounded, no, they're not. This is how privatization functions. It's not like one day it is sold off. Structural changes are done. And finally, a corporation is easier to sell than a media unit, because media unit is directly government. So we'll be behaving like ostriches if we said that this has nothing to do with privatization, and only government can clear this by making it public. This is the report here, we are not doing anything wrong. The fact that they're not doing it is raising all the concerns. And so I think we don't even need to discuss whether this is right or wrong. The process is flawed, and that is reason enough for this to be stalled or made more open. That is what I feel in a nutshell.
Okay,
thank
good,
you.
Joseph. Please.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Pradeep. And I think that we can go to open discussion. Before that, Mr. P.N. Ramendra is there. I would like to invite him. Then after that, Sudeep Acharya, alumni of TI, is also here. So, and after that, if anybody wants to supplement the discussion with a limited time frame, can continue.
I think Rafiq also may want to say something, I think.
Okay.
I'm just thinking now, since we're running short of time, if we can start focusing on what we can do now, what should we do? I think if the next few speakers can really kick that off, it'll be great, because I think we've done the analysis, and where do we go from here? What are the steps we can take?
It's a good idea. Okay. P.N. Ramchandran can speak.
Hello.
Where is PNR? P.N. Ramchandran, are you there? He left probably. Okay, so we can ask Sudipto, you can speak.
Speculating.
Yeah, it's really troubling and extremely depressing about listening to Mr. Rahul Ravel. And yes, all the speakers after that sort of spoke on the same sort of a wavelength, and I also agree with all of that. Losing the jobs is a huge concern, but there are other things apart from losing the jobs. All these organizations are a center of our cultural capital. Once they are sold off, what sort of erasure they will go through, we don't know, because these are also a document of the course which this country has taken since 1947. So erasure is the first thing that comes to my mind. So it is really a matter of concern, and continuously blaming the employees. I myself taught in FTII for 2 years as contractual faculty. I know for sure how it is very easy to demoralize the employee, to tell them that they don't matter. It is very easy to do that. As Prateek just now correctly put it, if an organization is not working, it is the head of the organization who is answerable, not the karmachari, not the person who is working, who is, so these are concerns. But then, as Rafiq says, that we need to, what is the way forward from here? This stealth has been part of the modus operandi of this government. The 3 farm bills, by now we all know, were passed in what sort of hurry, without any consultation. And we are talking about agriculture. Culture is only a part of agriculture. Yeah. So we have to. I really don't know. Are we ready to go out on the street? Do we have that sort of a number, or should we open our mouth in a different way? That is something, whether the 4 corners of the country should come together, and there has to be a united sort of a appeal to the government, to anybody who listens, anybody who cares about the democratic nature of this country, who cares about the multiplicity or the polyphonic voice of this country, which NFDC and other organizations have carried forward all these years. We need to find out our friends, to begin with. That is, I think, what we should do over the next 1 week. Yeah.
Thank you, Sudipto. Now I think that Siraj Said want to speak. Siraj, you can speak now.
Yes, Mr. Joseph, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to strike a note of tragicomedy. This whole exercise appears to me like a tragic comedy. What we can do about it is something that I will come to towards the end. In the beginning, let me say that I have had my association with all the organizations that are going to be merged. They might be sick, but what are the problems? The problems are corruption, inefficiency, inertia, top-heavy attitude. These are the 4 main problems. And we have 4 organizations being merged. Now, all these 4 problems exist to a slightly varying degree in the NFDC as well. So, is 5 times corruption, or 5 times inefficiency, 5 times inertia, 5 times top-heavy attitude going to solve any problem? No way. Moreover, ever since these organizations were formed, every year they have an annual report. Every few years, a CEO or a managing director is appointed, and all of them are appointed by the central government. What was it doing for 50 years? Didn't it read a single of these reports? Didn't it want to sack 50 people every year who were responsible for financial losses and inefficiency and inertia or whatever? Why have they woken up now? Amrit mentioned that the first signs of merger was Film Finance Corporation and Indian Motion Picture Export Corporation, IMPEC, to form NFDC. Absolutely right. According to me, there was a second sign which we have not yet touched, and that was in 2004, when the film festival, the International Film Festival of India, was shifted to Goa, and a semi-government kind of organization was formed as a front by the Goa government called the Entertainment Society of Goa to work in partnership with the DFF. And that could take advertisements and make commercial use and give out contracts. So half of the activity of the DFF, which is the main activity is the fee, the national awards is hardly anything, was hived off. And we should have seen the signs coming. It's 17 years ago. Now, what we can do, you and I, as people who are concerned, is only protest, is only letters, it's only RTI. It's a very bleak scenario. There is no way or no reason to assume or presume that an iota of benefit is going to come out of this merger. I have very strong views about this. I don't know, besides Rahul, who are the other members of the committee, but I'm sure they must have been of a particular bent of mind which suited this kind of an exercise. And I strongly feel that their credentials should be checked. And on the last note, the current CEO or managing director of 3 or 4 of these organizations is a man who spent the bulk of his life working for the Western Railway. I do not see how a man who has worked for most of his life in Western Railway will afford leadership to film-related organizations, and that too 3 or 4 simultaneously. Thank you.
Joseph.
May I ask you some question, Joseph?
Yes, please.
Did you invite Nagabarna and Shama Prasad, who were the other members, and AKB, three of the other members who were independent of the government? Did you try and invite them?
No, we have not tried.
Okay.
Nagabarana probably tried, I think. I'm not very sure.
Since you invited Rahul Ravel.
No, Rahul, that was Rahul Ravel himself joined. We have not basically invited like this.
Oh, really?
Anybody, yeah. Rahul Ravel himself shown his interest to join today morning, and then he called me and contacted us. And he himself told that I'm very much interested.
He only defended. He never came out with some explanation.
Yes,
clarity.
Right.
Actually, Amar, nobody knows that who is the committee members, what is their report. Yes. Everything is in a big secrecy, you know.
Therefore, we are just speculating. As I am given to understand, they have never recommended merger. They have never recommended shutting of any of these institutions at the committee. I think they recommended what I suggested, this Chalochitra, something like that, National Film Commission, or something of that sort as an umbrella organization, not even NFDC, as I'm given to understand. So we have to really find out what are the recommendations, whether they are binding upon the government. Government has already appointed a private agency to implement that. Which is the private agency? Whether the private agency report will be overriding on that. You know, this is important because we know the proclivities, political proclivities of the government, where they are leading towards. Whether it will help the private agency, which is a corporate body, sourced out, they will certainly recommend privatization, or they will certainly recommend closing down all this. So the strategy is to make them sick first, as it has happened in the realm of medicine and education. Education has already become an industry. Medicine, I think they try to even sicken the great hospitals like KEL or great colleges, medical college, GS Medical College, GMC. Many of them don't provide them enough finance, don't provide them good machinery, don't provide them, they don't renew their contracts or whatever, and then thereby they make them sick, and then justify that, say, look, they are sick, they are not working, and close them down. So everybody, even the poorest of the poor, I remember he supported privatization of the bank against nationalization. They always say government ka log kaam nahi karta hai. That mobilize public opinion. We should have a lot of clarity on what we are doing in absence of much of the information which is hidden from us. The federal structure of this country has to be maintained. I propose that restructuring has to be done at the top. The pyramid, which Gandhi suggested, pyramid is wobbling today. It's almost topsy-turvy. The ministry has to be restructured. Cinema should be taken into culture, Ministry of Culture. There should be separate ministry for museums and archives, as the state of Kerala has. There's an independent minister for museums and archives. There are so many museums today and archives. So there should be separate ministry for that. Not INB, not INB. INB is a misnomer that is creating the problem. Television is fine, it's broadcasting. But cinema is not broadcasting, not information. It's something which relates to art. Even worst of the commercial film will go into that. There's no problem. But we have to even give some concrete proposals, alternative proposals, that this is what should be done, and it should not be top-down management, which doesn't work in democracy. Decentralization, decentralized power as much as possible, which they are not going to do because it doesn't fit into their political credo. But I think we have to think about this, and as Pratik was suggesting, what should be done, what should be the action plan. If this meeting can brainstorm a bit, and we can come out with certain resolution or proposal, or Premendra and Joseph can draft out that, and something can go from this body, Fipresci. This is what I wanted to say.
Basically, only the last information which is available from the government side was on 20th December or 20th November of 2020, when the Press Information Bureau issued a notification, public notification, what is the scope or area of activities of this expert committee. And there was some 4 or 5 points were there. That was the last available data from the government side.
But that is from PIB. That is in the public.
Yes, that is from PIB only, not from the government itself.
But we don't know. We
don't know. That is the thing.
We don't know
because government is not disclosing anything, and so hurriedly they are doing this type of thing. Into Sham-Benegal committee's report was submitted in 2016 regarding this censorship, etc. But it was shelved for 5 years. But what was the hurriedness without public? That is an important thing, and RTI has been done for that also. And their next target is to bring SRFTI and FTI, because that PIB
the iconic alumni.
Yes. And now the FTI and SRFTI will come very under soon. This thing. So
yeah, they also have under their purview two institutes, SRFTI and FTI.
Are already SRFTI and FTI have been directed by the INB ministry to generate their own fund. So they are privatizing their curriculum also.
Exactly. Their argument is why FTI is charging only 60,000 rupees when private institutions are charging 1.5 lakhs.
Right, exactly.
Now, this kind of arguments, I think this is towards that mindset.
So now if this August House can suggest something that how could we move further, that would be better.
Exactly.
I think that I have a suggestion that we cannot go. We cannot continue arguing and talking, because there is a time limit is there. I think that we must form a small committee to see the action plans to draft some letter or write to the government or write to the MPs. and the opposition leaders. Like that, this issue can be bring to the parliament and all. We have to plan a strategy like that. So it is better to have a small committee, I think. Somebody can volunteer in this form also.
I think that's an excellent idea, but I just want to say quickly, I think this idea of a Ministry of Culture is a terrible thing. You're just playing right into their hands, Pratik? You'll just be giving them one whole ministry, man. I think the idea is to keep these organizations separate and start from the idea that they are safe.
So these are organizations under some ministry. So ministry reshuffling.
No, man, I'm telling you, because that is the most dangerous thing. If you look at the turnover of the INB ministers, it's the highest in the last 5 years. Every year they have a new INB minister. There is no follow through on strategy. There's no planning. There's no vision. There's nothing. It's just one scapegoat out to dry. Okay.
I'm not
and I tell you,
INB.
don't give them a Ministry of Culture. It's a big, huge mistake. Anil, you're trying to say something?
Yeah. After you finish, I just have a short thing to say.
No, that's it. I'm saying just don't give them any. Don't give them.
Okay.
And keep everything separate. And say it all needs to be revamped. We know that.
Okay. What I just wanted to say was that, respect to what Mr. Joseph was saying, instead of immediately coming out with suggestions, let's write to Fipresci, let's mull over the discussions and the various points. If we reflect, we might come up with the better suggestions rather than just coming up with this, because none of us are strangers to these issues.
Yeah.
So let's take some time to articulate and write to the people, and then let's not take a spot decision right now.
Yeah, sure. We haven't seen the report.
I just wanted to say they're actually implementing it in January, right? As we speak.
Yes.
So it's not like we have a lot of time. I'm not saying we have to give them the suggestions at the end of this meeting, but I'm saying, I mean, I really, I feel like, when the Taliban were taking over, people were just sneaking away films from the archive, passing it to friends to keep it for safekeeping until the government is more stable like that. I'm almost feeling like that at the end of this evening. So it's like our tail is already on fire. I don't think we have a lot of time to go back and forth, frankly, maybe a day or two, because they're already implementing it in January. We are already in Jan. So by the end of the month, it will already be too late is my concern.
No, Meenakshi, Mr. Joseph spoke about it. One MP, one member of parliament has already raised this concern. There is this longish letter. That's longish letter has already been there. There's been no response to that. So unless the filmmaking community really kind of gets up, because I find that the implications of these decisions, either people don't understand or understand and then, want to sort of pretend that they don't understand. I don't know what the scenario is like, because
How can they not answer an RTI?
Sorry?
How can they not answer an RTI, man? He said, no,
they haven't.
How can you not answer an RTI?
See, Priya, my problem is that so far, whatever we know about this decision has been through government circulars, which are like terse circulars that from January, this body will merge. There hasn't been an official statement put out by the government, even in the public. Forget about reaction. So that's what I was trying to tell Mr. Ravel, that I will not like to speculate, because then it's very easy to dismiss that, no, your fears are unfounded. The fears are founded, because when there is a veil of secrecy, this is not this is an administrative decision. If you make out on that, then where is the issue of secrecy in this? I don't understand this. That's the problem.
Do we see a possibility that the report will never be made public?
Yeah,
is it possible?
Yes,
because we are already on the 2nd of January, and if the implementation is to be done on the 31st of January, there's barely 29 days, and there's no sign of the report yet.
So that has to be. So I think that has to be our first request or demand, that that it has to be made public. Let there be a forum. It has to come to the public. That has to be the first sort of a demand.
And that's very democratic, to ask for this.
Amarat, so some 1,500, more than 1,500 stakeholders signed the letter and asked the government to release the report. Release the report.
Yes.
They're not doing it. Do you think that they will do that?
No, I don't expect that. I don't expect that to happen.
I don't expect it, but we should try it. We should try to raise the issue in the public sphere, in media. Like that, we have to start our strategy. People should know that what is happening in.
Exactly.
And we should write to the party leaders, or we should ask them to raise in the parliament.
Yes, and if some eminent filmmakers also sign.
And so many eminent filmmakers signed this letter.
Yeah, exactly. And or separately, like the chiefs of armies recently wrote to the government about this Ayodhya, about the Haridwar.
Because as everybody knows, so they don't care.
Exactly. So
it is like a Taliban.
Not only cinema, from other fields of art also can sign. And
yeah,
because it's a general issue, it's an important issue. Why can't the report be made public? That's all. That's not a great demand,
Yeah,
in a democracy.
Should be aware of that.
We also want to know, going forward, what are they going to do with these organizations? It's one thing to say we want the contents of the report, but the other thing is what is the vision and how are you going to implement it? And what is the time frame, and what is the larger goal?
Yeah, in fact, Priya, we don't even know.
No, what was the problem for a member of a committee to say this minimum, to share with us this minimum information? This is what we recommended. And what was the problem? You can see
because all the committee, all the committee members are very close to the government, very confident. They have very confidence with the government, so they will never release the part of the report of Jagti Lethal. You cannot expect it.
No, officially.
You cannot expect. I know that. I'm also given to understand they listed the very well-known alumni of the institute, film institute. They know Adol Gopalakrishnan. They know Manikal. They know it sounds very ridiculous, And some names that if you read, you will laugh. So you know the mindset where what they are thinking, what their level. So this is the time of celebrating mediocrity. This mediocrity is killing our young minds. All young minds are being, their minds are made so enslaved. They don't want them to think. And this is our worry is much larger. These young minds are completely, they're completely politicized, whatever. And they can't think beyond. Another aspect of this committee, we are also overridden by technology. Technology is not a major thing. Technology should not enslave us. Technology, you take 2 months to learn the techniques, the digital. So what happened is you are weeding out the old wisdom. They're redundant. They think they're redundant. Because they don't know how to operate a machine. But that's not a major thing. Major thing is to think. How do you think? And those thinkers are being wiped off. This is one of the reasons what will happen and what will happen to our younger generation, younger minds. This is something which is bothering us, should bother us at a larger scale.
Pramod, we'll do one thing. I think that we can sit together with a small group. Then we can plan some strategies how to write and what is the point.
Does anyone know the composition of the committee? For the first, I knew that I've only heard the secretary's name so far. Today, for the first time, I came to know when the program that Mr. Ravel was a member of this committee. I don't even know who were the other members of the committee.
There were A.K.B. was there, the filmmakers, Shama Prasad, Nagabarna. They were all members of the committee, among the filmmakers. So they can very well tell us.
Mr. A.K.B. was also part of the committee.
Pardon?
Who?
Mr. A.K.B.
A.K.B. Yeah, I know.
So, just want to ask you, isn't the report sort of floating on the internet somewhere unofficially, or it's really under wraps and we can't access it?
What is that?
The report, isn't it?
No, it's not available anywhere.
It's not available.
Media doesn't have. Media people should have the report in their hand. So that
getting the report is important, and I think the minimum demand should be at least a 1 year delay, which.
Hello.
So where is report is available?
No, it's not.
Okay. It's funny, that the Censor Board is the only organization that's not in this merger plan.
No. Venkat Sharan is telling that report is available.
Yeah, somebody sent a message The report is available.
That is just the members of the committee. I'll just put the members of the committee.
No, yes, that is available. I told now that is available in the PIV's notification. It is there in the internet, but the report is not available.
Oh, no, not yet.
PIB only reported some salient points. Report is not shared with public.
No, report is there.
What are the recommendations?
Oh, okay, so this is director of NFAI and all the hunchos of these various organizations were a part of this committee. This is news to me.
No, what they did, committee met all the stakeholders, including DGFD, Director Archive. All of them were met and the issues were discussed with them. So democratically is very fine, you know, on the surface, it looks very good. So you can't even dispute that. But where is the report?
No, but that's exactly what I told Mr. Ramesh, that I cannot dispute that, but I can definitely dispute your recommendations.
Exactly.
That's the point.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. Yeah.
Should be done.
So first of all,
and also the hurriedness of the government, that is also very interesting, because they already have appointed the Director General of NFDC. He's a railway personnel and railway accounts.
This is a censor board chief, Mr. Bhaskar.
Basically,
the censor board chief who is in charge of it.
Basically, service is a railway accounts officer, IRAS services. He comes
but that's
from.
always there.
That is not a problem. That is not the issue. But they already have asked films divisions premises to make the buildings. They have started the job work.
Already the NMIC has gone to NFDC.
Right.
NFDC will operate it. So that's all there.
So what should be our strategy? I am very much
look at
doubtful.
The capitalist country like America. So this whole attitude of the government,
from this seminar, what should be our resolution? What can we do?
You tell us, Premendra. You tell us.
One thing is that, as Joseph suggested, we can make a very small, our expert committee like this. Not anybody from Fipresci, maybe Anil could be there, Amrit could be there, like this 3-4 persons, and you can give us some suggestions. We can make a public white paper type of thing to disclose everything, a little bit of history of these organizations, their basic philosophy, what was to be done and how it is being done very hurriedly without giving any explanation to the nation. At least these things should be recorded for the posterity. Otherwise, the future will tell that we were irresponsible. We have not told anything like this.
And we are doing all this without the report.
Yes.
Now we should see. So we should alert the film organizations, institutions, and students, filmmakers. Like that, we should write to them. We should ask them to come forward to interfere in these things. Come to the media and speak to the media. Like that. Now nobody knows it.
Basically, it should be public movement. It should be mobilizing public opinion. Basically, is that.
Amrit, what do you think tactically? It's a good idea.
I read in the chat box. Excuse me. I read in the chat box that the heads of all these organizations were also part of the committee.
Yes.
In other words, all the the heads of all these organizations themselves recommended the dissolution of their organizations.
No. I don't think we can draw this.
No. But one second. The heads of all of these organizations, actually one guy, because he's been given additional. Like when I went to meet the head of FD, he was head of DD, head of NFDC, So and like that guy said, he also had a Western Railway job. So it's just one guy. It's not like
No, Priya, that was later. He became censor board chief in August.
Siraj, talking about
the other due in December.
मैं तो 2 साल पहले की बात कर रही हूँ. एक बंदे के पास 6 जगह का इंचार्ज है. He goes to one place for 2 hours a week. So it's not like it's not like more different.
I get it, Priya, but the committee has been in operation for 3 years.
Because
this man has come down only in.
Because Pramendra, hello, Siraj, please hear me.
Yes.
so we cannot go on like discussing. There should be a cut-off point. I'm telling that we should form a small committee, and we can form a larger WhatsApp group. Like Venkateswaran says, Venkateswaran suggested and said to everyone that we can form a large WhatsApp group to get the inputs and ideas, and we have a discussion like that. Otherwise, we are just discussing. There's no end. What to do? Can we form a small committee now?
That is the better thing. Actually, yes. We can form a small committee, and from there we can make a small our outcome or the synopsis of this seminar, how to move to the government one way, and another way how to move to the public in general and to the film fraternities, the stakeholders. Like
now everybody can volunteer it. I can suggest some names, and some other can volunteer it. You can suggest
public, how public is affected?
No, public is not very much affected.
Public is affected at large, no?
Yeah.
They're deprived of something.
Yes, but we have to go to them explaining that they are being they cannot understand.
Everything we have to discuss it. So we are so we have to discuss in a small group, and we have to form a larger group. Then we have to get the ideas, and we should plan that how we have to act, and whom we have to contact, how the media can be involved, like that.
See, Joseph, we don't have the report. We don't know the recommendation as of now. So we will be, whatever we will be doing will be a little speculative.
But the practical thing is there. We don't want the report now. Our problem is that these institutions are merged. That's a high danger. That's a reality.
Whether we know that the committee has really recommended closure of these units, I don't know.
That is another question. The committee's report, another question. Whatever the committee report, now what is happening? The institutions are closed, and government is doing it. So we should address that question, I think.
The private agency has been appointed as consultant, and they will actually finally say this is how.
Yes, then what to do? Then what to do?
Then we have to know the facts. We have to first know the facts, and then only you can suggest alternatives.
Even I think that it is, we should know what the committee report is, but that doesn't stop us from opposing what is happening now. That has to be, if we wait another year for a committee report.
So we should actually get into confidence the heads now, the heads of
but how the report we are going to get? Now, how you will get the report?
Report anyway. RTA has been filed in the suit.
RTA filed that nobody gets the
nobody
answer.
Responding.
Now you have to now you have to go to the court, Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Some group filed RTA. No reply. No reply.
The action plan is going to be,
Huh?
No, I just wanted to know whether Pratik and have you planned anything to do further? Because you and Shilpa initiated this thing.
Not really, sir. We just wanted to first of all put it out in public, because we were just reading about it and not knowing what to do or how to proceed or how to get people together. So that became the first step. We were in touch with some employees from FD, and they were telling us that it's happening very fast and all that. But I just wanted to ask if people think that, do we have a legal argument in all of this? Is there a legal sort of intervention that can help us to at least get a stall on it or get something out? Because that seems to be the only urgent thing that we can do apart from gaining this public opinion and things like that. So
the first action legal will be to get the report. Otherwise, how will pleader argue? On what basis?
Yeah,
no, we can ask for a stay, right? Actually, they had thrown out, the FD employees had already put a petition, which the Delhi High Court has dismissed.
Dismissed.
They said they were like concerns about whatever, and the High Court dismissed it, saying it was premature. Then, of course, immediately they pushed NMIC under that, and Censor Board guy took over as NFDC, etc. So that doesn't mean we can't do it again, but that FD employees have already done that. So, but Pratik, I think actually only legal, I think a stay, one more, I don't know if there are entertainment lawyers who deal with legal, I mean, you know, entertainment issues, I mean, rather than whatever, say Naxalites or other things within the space of law.
No, you see, Meenakshi, two problems will be there. Only thing is that we can do PIL, public interest litigation. In case of public interest litigation also, the court will ask for the report first. So PIL will not stand, and it's a government decision. And we are not the direct stakeholders. Our service is not getting, so it will be very difficult for us to go to the court with this case. What we can do, these members of this committee, they are more or less responsible persons. We can tell them that whatever you have done, that has been kept confidential by the government, but the government is implementing that. It is your duty to disclose this to the nation.
Yeah.
We can hit their emotion right from this seminar. First thing is that
I don't believe anyway.
No, but now you see, Mr. AKBir is there. Some people are there. Nagavaran is a responsible person. They cannot deny everything. No? They cannot tell, no, I will not tell anything like this.
Then you
And maybe, and as Amrit Gangar is telling from the very beginning, I am also apprehending that they have not suggested merger. They suggested something else and government doing something else.
Exactly.
So they have kept everything under the carpet. And so, this is the reason why Rahul Lal today morning himself contacted us. We have never contacted him. He contacted us to tell something like this. So there must be some secrecy they are maintaining, which is not at par with the suggestions of the committee members. So let us contact the committee members.
Pramendra, that's why I asked whether their recommendations will be binding upon the government.
Exactly.
We don't know.
I have a doubt. Let me ask one question. Did government say that they are acting upon this report ever?
That's what I'm asking. No? That's what I asked him.
No, they may not say it is not because of this report. We are doing it.
Yeah, even most of the committee.
Here is the information gap. On 20th December or November, when Javadekar was there, the INB minister, he in the press conference he told that we are going to push it, implement it on the basis of the expert committee's report.
Okay.
He told it. So government himself declared that they are doing on the basis of that report.
If that is the case, if the expert committee has not recommended this merger, that committee members somebody should have already been out there and telling us that we have not recommended.
Ramendra, my question is whether it has to be passed by the parliament. This kind of no.
This has not been passed by the parliament. Only INB minister made a press conference and told that we are going to do it as per the expert committee suggestion. That's all. After that 1 year, there was nothing. Now this Anurag INB minister, he told immediately do it within this month, within 1 month.
Last NFDC report I read, and then mandated this. I will just read out 2 lines. To plan, produce and organize an integral and efficient development of the film industry. That's for NFDC to do. National economic policy, an objective laid down by the central government from time to time. This was the mandate of the NFDC. So central government can do anything.
Yes.
Like FTII was mandated to supply good technicians to the film industry and therefore make the film industry better, act better, or work better. So these mandates were there when they were founded. So NFDC's mandate is toward the industry. Their responsibility is toward the film industry and how they can integrate and develop it better according to economic policy of the government. Economic policy, not cultural.
Right. And
I don't know how far.
Another important thing we are missing in the discussion, that is in between. Just when the INB minister declared that, in between, they have amended the NFDC's law and they have brought it under the Companies Act. Earlier, it was not under Companies Act. Now, NFDC is not NFDC. Now it is National Film Development Corporation of India Limited. It's a limited company now. Yes, they have amended it.
Yes.
And after the amendment, they have brought under that. So there is a very much well planned that they are privatizing everything. Shamol Karmakar, he is a very famous teacher of SRFTI. He has got a good suggestion he has given in the chat box. You can see that we may sensitize the students who are the future stakeholders of the film industry. Students of different film institutes like SRFTI, FTI, and others, so private institutions also. They are the future stakeholders of the Indian film industry. So we can sensitize them. We can tell them that this is going to be happened. So you are the people who can take the responsibility. We are giving you the information. Our work is to give the supply the information only, because we are a very small organization, organizationally, and we cannot go to the field and do some demonstration, etc.
Yes, Pramendra and CFSI on division and NFAI are the full bodies under IND ministry.
Yes.
CFSI is a very weak ground. It's a society. You can change the whole structure of the governance manager easily. So they have never been getting full amount. Their staff is also reduced substantially, so they can't even function.
Yes.
So it's very easy to say that my argument with Rahulji was that is one-sided. Why can't we also criticize the government action? Why can't we even discuss what government did and why they became sick? And this is happening in many public institutions. This is also going to happen to banks, nationalized banks. And therefore, all the employees of nationalized bank, officers, they were on the streets. But here, coming on the street doesn't arise.
Yeah.
400 employees, FD 67 or something.
You just
tell me.
Pramendra, you just mentioned that it has become National Film Development Corporation of India Limited.
Yes.
But on their website, even right now, I checked.
Yes, I know. They have not changed. They are not disclosing it. There was an amendment of the, and there was so many articles.
Yeah,
we have also. Yes.
Let me tell. So Pramendra, so we have to conclude it, because we know. So whatever points we people are discussing it, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
We know that. So what is going on here? So our problem is how we have to inform the people or the students or some filmmakers and organizations. So we are a small group. Like as you said, we have to make a small report or something like that. Whatever what is going on and what are the demerits of this merging, how the culture is completely damaged. Like that, we can write the point. Then we can write to them. We can alert them. That's all.
So how it is not difficult, but to argue that these institutions should stay as they are, independent. How do you argue in favor of that? So there are many reasons that public will say, no, they are not working. Our money is going waste. There are many youngsters will say that, tell you.
Then what is the solution, Amar? We are discussing.
Shudipta has something to say. Shudipta, please suggest something.
Yeah. Firstly, as far as the students are concerned, it is not very difficult. They have their office bearers, both in FTII and SRFTII. We should get in touch with the office bearers, and through the office bearers, they will inform the larger student body. So that is possible. And if Pratik's letter must have also circulated in both the Film Institute premises. I'm sure about that. But we can take it again to them, so, and we can also, whenever we are meeting next, we can invite the office bearers of both the film institutes, and not just the 2 film institutes. We should also bring into ambit the various other regional film institutes. You know, it's actually a very sad thing. You know, 1 month ago in Haryana, in Rohtak, they have a very interesting integrated film school. You know, it is a 5-year course. Nobody teaches a 5-year integrated course. They have put a very stupid person as vice chancellor of that deemed university. You know, the guy who was that villain in Mahabharat. You all know his name. He was also the chairman of FTII for a short period of time. You know, so he has been made as the vice chancellor. You know, so we need to. So there is a lot of anger in the other film institutes also. You know, and so we need to bring together. Yes, Gajendra Chauhan. So can you imagine, Gajendra Chauhan was a chairman in FTII, and now he's the vice. Now he's the VC, vice chancellor of a university in Rohtak. It is one of the rare art center which has integrated the various departments of art, and they're giving a 5-year course. It's a very serious place.
Is it government funded?
Absolutely, okay. Absolutely government funded. And so, and Mr. Kundu was also probably involved with that place for a very long, for a certain period of time. You know, so this is a really serious concern. So we should not just FTII and SRFTII. Almost every state now has a film school. We should try and bring together the various film schools under one umbrella. That could be a starting point, as Shamal Kormukar is suggesting. And as you are suggesting, you are asking a very valid point. How do we argue that these institutions have to maintain their autonomy? You know, we cannot ignore the cultural capital that these institutes have created over a period of 50 years. You know, so those things need to be, those intangible heritage that these institutions have created needs to be highlighted. Many of the younger generation are not even aware about it. So we can't blame them if they turn back on our face and say that they are doing poorly, they should be dismantled. We can't blame them if they say something like that, because they are not aware about the facts. If they become aware, many years ago, even I was not aware. You know, when I became a student of FTII, I slowly became aware about what my predecessors have contributed. You know, so it is our responsibility also to talk about these institutions, whether it is the Children's Film Society or whether it is Films Division or NFDC, and say that yes, they are not functioning as per our wish, but we cannot throw the baby out along with the water. You know, so that is the only argument I can think of.
Okay, Joseph, are you there? This is a good suggestion. So we can contact all the student office bearers, student leaders of different film institutes all over India, and make a network with them and tell them that this is the story. So you can decide what to do. We can make the platform for them.
What could the graffiti play the role? What role can it play? Graffiti?
That's why. Pramendra, that's why I suggested that we should form a small committee and sit together for some 2 hours. Then we can plan it. Actually, I think that it is not a matter of film or
nobody
film
disputes
scores.
that.
No. Okay,
let me complete. It is not a matter of film or film scores. It's a matter of culture of our complete country. Completely redoing it. It's a political question.
Okay, we shall.
It's not an easy thing. So we have to draft it, and we have to inform the people. We can sit together. We can form a small committee, or we can. What do you say?
No. What you want to form the committee right from this seminar, or we can make it
later
also. Later on, we can make it the committee. We can discuss.
Yeah.
We can
Let us.
contact the persons who are today who told,
Okay,
and
then.
who,
Yeah.
we can talk to them and make a small
Not
committee.
now,
and,
not now. We can,
okay,
we
fine.
can, we can
You
form a
collect all
committee
the
and-
whatever is discussed today. You collect all that information,
Yes,
and then
yes.
see what is crystallized. You know, I think what Sudipta said brings some clarity now.
Right,
The student bodies across the board, all the
Ah.
institutions. And the Rohtak story is very sad. You know, it was one of the best institutes was going to be.
Yeah,
This
when the
is being
public should
now.
know that.
Yes, people don't know so many things they don't know because media is not disclosing anything.
And as far as Rohtak is concerned, it is the only serious film institute in northern India.
Exactly.
You know,
And
the
5
whole
year
of
course.
northern India. Yeah, 5-year
5-year
course.
course. You know.
Yes, yes.
And this is what is needed now. Patience. Everybody is in a hurry today. You know, digital. ऐसे बना लेगा film. बनती नहीं है. आपको इधर चाहिए ना कुछ finally. That is being discarded. The mind is discarded. It's the only machine that can make the film. So you know how to operate the machine. You are a filmmaker. And this is what being suggested all across, even by the committees. Technology is small part of the whole filmmaking philosophy.
Okay, then can we conclude?
Okay,
Joseph?
we can conclude it.
You know, Bilal has put the suggestion that there should be a ministry of cinema. The state of Kerala already had one.
Yes.
Ministry, separate ministry for cinema. So Kerala had
Okay,
suggested, shown us the way. You know, in Gujarat, cinema, there is no Ministry of Culture. There is independent Ministry of Cow Breeding. Independent ministry, full-fledged minister. But there is no minister for cinema, the culture minister. As against that, you see, this shows the orientation, the attitude, the proclivity of the people who rule us. You know?
Exactly.
This is very crystal clear. If you analyze these, all the factors, it's very clear how this country is being ruled, and well, they have their own reason to follow. But still, I think Kerala has Chalchitra Academy. I really find personally could be the better way. We have to plead for something, plead for some organization. Not NFDC as a corporate, as an umbrella organization, but this could be the better suggestion, and then mobilize the public opinion towards that, and how these bodies can be independently remain as also effective. How they can, I can clearly see that there could be many more archives. All the bodies should have archives of their own. The NFAI is heavily burdened, they don't have enough staff. Most of the staff is admin staff, half of them they're outsourcing things. So why can't we, there's so much unemployment in this country. The museology department have opened young students, even JNU and other universities. They're specializing in museology. Why can't they be employed into these bodies? But now we are all on our way out. The young people should come in, and they should get the you know, the sutradhar. They should become the sutradhar of this whole cultural movement, because they know what they are facing today by way of technology, by political exigency. The young people know very much. These I think we have to take many more young people with us, students. Therefore, I think Sudipta's argument is very correct. And technology, I think everybody thinks that technology is everything. It's not. It's not. And therefore, the list of eminent alumni of FTI doesn't have Adur Gopal Krishna, doesn't have Manipal, Kumar Shanji. So they are redundant now. They are not. As Deleuze said, cinema is a long martyrology. They're all martyrs, you know. Just before our eyes, they are martyrs. And there are many more martyrs we never care for. We have to really care for this and think in a way that this also cultural heritage, living cultural heritage is preserved. It's not the machine, not the technology. It's not everything.
Okay, Amar, it is time to conclude now.
No, this neoliberal policy is destroying everything. Neoliberalism, you know, we know that. And therefore, all these committees, when the comes to us, we will come to know.
Yeah, we will conclude it now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
we just needed some clarity before
Yeah.
this, and I think Sudipto's argument brought some
Yeah,
clarity.
Sudipto and Shamul Karmakar, they have given the good suggestions
Yes.
to involve the
They are
youngsters
practicing
also in the,
academics.
yes.
academics
Yeah, conclude it.
So we shall come forward with the resolutions of this seminar very soon, and we shall circulate it to you also. And how to move further, we will try our level best. Though our we have limitations too much, we're a very small organization. Still, we shall try to do our best on this issue.
We're still international organization, Kemendra. You
Yes.
can still pull in international opinion.
Yes,
no?
that's true. But I am not very much sure that whether the outside countries will be interested to intrude in our own politics, etc. Okay,
This
still,
is going across the world.
No, yes.
This is going
Still,
across the world.
even today also,
humanities departments have been closed.
Some people from the outside India also joined today. I have seen from Sri Lanka or
Okay.
somewhere else. So it's good. So
Okay,
we
let
shall
us finish. Let us conclude.
we shall again meet very soon as possible with some interest group and try to make some plan to.
And invite other committee members. AK Bir, Nagbarna.
Yes, by that time we shall contact them also.
Invite them all.
If
That
possible.
will be better.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to the chair,
Okay.
Mr. Joseph, and
Thank you.
everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for everybody too.
Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right.
Bye-bye.